Hi, my name is Dominika, and I am going to talk about young people's attitudes towards ethnic diversity in Czechia. So why studying attitudes? Attitudes have been studied by social psychologists and sociologists for a long time already. And there has been a strong focus on negative attitudes, such as prejudice. Because they can, but they don't have to result in certain behaviors. Why studying attitudes towards ethnic diversity? So our societies are becoming much more diverse. There are many reasons for it. The increased interconnectedness of the world, the relatively cheaper ways how to travel, changing patterns in migration, and fast developing technologies. There is no single easy solution for the complex issues surrounding ethnic diversity in our societies, but this was often misused by politicians and populist politicians during their campaigns and elections, and that also happened in Czechia. So Czechia, or you may know the name Czech Republic, so it's the country you can see on the map, the arrow is pointing to it. And here we have the map of Europe, but on modern borders. However, you can see the former Eastern Bloc, and Czechia was part of it. It was actually creating a part of the border. It means that the movement was very much limited during most of the second part of the 20th century. And it's one of the reasons for why post-communist countries generally demonstrate less tolerant attitudes towards diversity. It's important to say that also in Czechia, the society was very homogeneous when it was part of the former Eastern Bloc. So most of the people had Czech citizenship or Slovak citizenship. So why are the post-communist countries less tolerant? There are many reasons for it. There was the limited movement of people, but it also meant limited movement of ideas and thoughts coming from the outside world. Also, the information were very much filtered by the regime and all the happenings in the Western world as well. There is also lower trust in the post-communist countries. It is very much connected with a shorter history of democracy, and it's connected with lower satisfaction in life. And lower satisfaction in life is very much connected with more negative attitudes towards ethnic diversity. The third reason is nationalism. So Czechia was for many years influenced by much more powerful entities. So being part of the Austrian-Hungarian Empire, then influenced by Germany, and then being a satellite of the Soviet Union. And then after the fall of the Iron Curtain in 1989, it was still Czechoslovakia, so one country together with Slovakia. And in 1993, it became an independent nation state. So there were efforts to find the national identity. What does it mean to be Czech? And with this awakening of national identity, there was also awakening of prejudice and xenophobia. Also because the whole discourse about ethnic diversity and ethnic minorities was very much concealed during the communism. So what was my project about? So I focus on students finishing high school in Czechia. So my respondents are 18 years old or 19 years old, most of them 18 years old. And I asked them a mix of questions, bringing a mix of qualitative and quantitative data. Some of these questions were adopted from the standard European surveys, such as Eurobarometer or European Social Survey. And what is important to say, there is some limitations to the sample because all of them are coming from state-funded grammar schools, so much more academically focused schools. Most of them also stated that they plan on commencing university studies in September. This way, they will most likely move to the part of the population which is more educated, and that's a strong factor in the attitudes towards ethnic diversity. They're also coming from 9 Czech regions. What's important about this generation is that their parents were born during communism, whereas this generation was born more than a decade after the fall of the Iron Curtain. They had much easier access to internet information, more opportunities to travel, And also, they were growing up during the so-called refugee crisis, so they were witnessing all the presentation of refugees and immigration in the news, in media. So let's have a look at the results. So 76% have several or a few friends of a different ethnic background. That's very typical for young people, but it's also a quite high number compared to the European average. And it means they have more first-hand information about members of different ethnic backgrounds. 80% agree that they enjoy spending time with people from different ethnic background and emphasize that ethnic background does not play any role in their choice of friends and people they spend time with. So they very much said things like, when I look at people, I look at the individual characteristic of a human being regardless of their ethnic background. And this is illustrated by this response coming from one participant when she said, when it comes to friendships and relationships, I don't care about the ethnic and cultural background at all. I think it rather piques curiosity, as you don't have so many opportunities for meeting people from different ethnic backgrounds in Czechia. This is very much true because there is not even 5% of foreign-born people living in Czechia. Most of them are coming from countries of Slavic origin or from members of the former Eastern Bloc. But this answer demonstrates most of the answers from the students. Here's another question studying the social distance, and these answers were saying that people would be totally comfortable having a foreign-born, not born in Czechia person as family member, teacher, doctor, neighbor, classmate, and friend, as you can see here. And in the first line, so these answers say totally comfortable, very, very positive attitude. 18 years old in Czechia, our sample is the green one, the first line, and then the yellow line, the second one, is the Czechia average in percentage. The third line, European average from 2017. So all age groups together, our sample is still the 18 years old students. So you can see, compared to the European average, is relatively more tolerant attitude, and towards compared to Czechia average, it's significantly more tolerant attitude. So we can say they really demonstrate more tolerant attitudes. And then when we move to other question, also adopted from the European survey, so should people from different countries or backgrounds be allowed to come and live in Czechia? And now we have different groups of people on the right for you, and then all these answers are coming from our sample, and coming from the red fraction of the graph, it's the most negative attitude through the pink one, and then the blue one, the blue fraction, is the most tolerant attitude. The purple is I don't know. So when you look at these, there is some prejudice towards Jewish people and different ethnic group. However, still compared to the European average is quite low. Then when we look at other three groups, so Roma people, Muslim people, and poor countries outside Europe, you can see there is much bigger prejudice. There has been a prejudice towards Roma people and Muslim people in Czechia, and it's the same for Europe. So still, when we look at these percentages, they are from 10 to 25% lower than the European averages. So what does this mean? We can say that young people in Czechia demonstrate more tolerant attitudes towards ethnic diversity compared to the Czechia and European average, compared to all age groups. They are definitely interested in learning more about various ethnic backgrounds, and they critically evaluate their sources of news. I also asked them if they follow the topic of migration ethnic minorities in media and what are their sources. So I could definitely see they were very critical about what kind of sources they use. However, there is still inconsistency in attitudes, and it's very typical for attitudes, so they're not very logical, they don't hold together, and there is the prevailing prejudice towards Muslim and Roma people, however still lower than the European average. In conclusion, since intolerance and polarization in attitudes is on rise in many places in the world, it is positive to see a shift towards more positive perception of ethnic diversity among young people in Czechia. They seem to recognize diversity in society more as a strength than a threat, and we can hope that their attitudes towards the other ethnic groups, Roma people, Muslim people, and for countries outside Europe could improve during the future years as well. Thank you.